The controversy began in August of last year when a new misdemeanor probation law was enacted. State Attorney General Mark White has ruled that DWI cases are subject to the law, which says that a probated misdemeanor conviction is a final conviction. Thus, the new law requires the suspension of the licenses of persons convicted of driving while intoxicated, even though they receive probation. The new law omits a section found in the old law, which states that when a defendant receives probation, the finding of guilt is not final.
His opinion, as well as most of the judges across the state who are in agreement, are that if they receive probation under the new act, then it is a final conviction, unless they receive probation under Section 3 of the new act, and that is the deferred adjudication probation, where there's no final finding of guilt.
The bottom line is that for some 2,800 Texans convicted of driving while intoxicated and placed on probation, the new law requires the suspension of their driver's licenses. In Jefferson County, however, the court and its officers recognized the potential problem and avoided it. In most cases, instead of accepting a guilty plea and assigning probation, which automatically means suspension of the driver's license, Judge Manus calls for a deferred adjudication of guilt. That way, the driver is placed on probation, but because no final judgment is rendered, he doesn't lose his license.
We felt that the Attorney General was going to render this opinion in this way. Most of the attorneys were up on the law, and as a result of that, nearly every case that has come, DWI case, that has come through my court, I would say 99.9%, the defendant has received deferred adjudication on the DWI if he's charged with DWI. So therefore, he has not lost his license and is not in jeopardy of losing it now.
If any of you pleaded guilty to a driving while intoxicated charge and then got probation with the understanding that you wouldn't lose your license, contact your attorney, because there are other remedies available. Albert Zip, Channel 6 News.
People have no right to mutilate the human body. That's, say, the cutting of or excising a sound organ.
Father Joseph Kelly has just learned of the statement. It says, "No tubal ligation or sterilization simply to prevent pregnancy," and Catholic doctors and hospitals are warned, formal cooperation in the grave evil of contraceptive sterilization, either by approving or tolerating it for medical reasons, is forbidden. Here in the Diocese of Beaumont, Bishop Bernard Ganter has not been officially notified of the ruling, and so neither have the two Catholic hospitals in our area. Even before the recent ruling, here at Beaumont's St. Elizabeth's Hospital, the Church's stand on the issue has been observed.
The Catholic hospitals were never permitted to perform abortions or tubal ligations.
At St. Mary's Hospital in Port Arthur, however, we were told sterilization will be allowed when patients with pathological conditions can be helped. The detailed official notice is expected soon, but it will apparently only re-emphasize previous church position.
Because of the development of organizations and so on, pro and con, that I think that the bishops are reiterating this policy to clarify and to once again make a firm stand as to what the Catholic teaching is.
We'll let you know if there are any other developments. Wayne Sparrow, Channel 6 News.
These watermelons were picked earlier than normal, and many farmers say if they had waited, their crops would have looked like this. These melons, dried out because of too much sun and not enough water, are in the central part of the state, where temperatures have been 100 plus for the last 2.5 weeks. This produce stand near Orange hasn't encountered any problems in getting watermelon. In fact, they're expecting another shipment later on today. The produce received by this market is bought from independent farmers, and although watermelons are abundant here now, the manager of this stand believes all that will change in the near future. Do you see any difficulty in getting watermelon, say in the next month or so because of this heat?
Yes, sir. It ain't going to get no better till we get some good rain. Now, it can only get worse. It can only get worse.
So, in order to protect themselves from serious losses, many farmers are harvesting their crops early, and this has led to higher prices. Are the melon prices up this year over last year?
Yes, sir, they are, and mainly because of the dry weather. They're up quite a bit from last year because you can't grow melons without rain.
Jim Oliver, near Orange, Texas, Channel 6 News.
Sometime in mid-August, the R.A. Rout family will move into a home which will be built at the site. The home will be constructed by a Beaumont church organization called Habitat for Humanity. The lot is located on the end of Mazo Street in the city's southeast side. The Beaumont branch of Habitat for Humanity was one of the first in the worldwide organization to be formed. The group, which meets at Calder Baptist Church, plans to build at least one house per year.
But it is an organization dedicated to building homes for disadvantaged families who cannot afford to have a home in the day in which we live. And there are several chapters or branches of Habitat for Humanity around the United States, and Beaumont it's one of the early branches of this organization. So it's simply dedicated to building homes for people.
Mary Rout says her family has been looking for a house for over 2 years, and finding this one was a dream come true.
We've been looking for a house about 3 years. As a matter of fact, about 8 months ago, we applied for a home on Avenue G. And the loan and everything went through. And after the papers come back, it was a government home. The man told us that my husband's job wasn't sufficient. His salary wasn't sufficient. Everything, the credit check was great and everything, but he wasn't making enough money. So we kind of gave up until we heard about Habitat. I sent in for an application, sent in my credit, and they called us and we were accepted.
The group will hold a flea market and auction behind Gateway Shopping Center this Saturday to raise money to construct the foundation. Mario Gomez, Channel 6 News.
Paul Zeke isn't an auto mechanic, but he does know what heat can do to our bodies. Zeke is the athletic trainer at Lamar University, and he spends hours working with potential heat exhaustion victims, athletes in all university sports. The warning signs he looks for in his athletes are ones we should also learn to recognize, especially with this summer's heat wave.
One is a headache. You know, we'll have athletes come up and say they're getting a headache, want an aspirin. Well, that just tells us that we've got to be on our toes and watch them extra special. They're nauseated sometimes. This is another warning sign. Blurred vision. There are a lot of warning signs that, you know, our body gives us that a lot of times we just take for granted and ignore.
If you see someone with these signs, get them into the shade and give them some type of fluid. Because if heat exhaustion is allowed to reach a dangerous level, heat stroke can follow. Zeke says that about 1/3 of those who suffer a heat stroke die from it. He adds that we can prevent the condition by being aware of the warning signs.
You can go from a heat exhaustion straight into heat stroke. That heat exhaustion is oversweating, overproducing a sweat, running low on water. And your heat stroke is where you just stop sweating. The sweating mechanism just shuts down and the body becomes hot and red. Your heat stroke victims will be, as I say, hot and red. Your heat exhaustion victims will be sweating profusely.
Many outdoor workers, like these construction workers, are probably acclimatized to the extreme weather conditions, but doctors say it's still possible for their bodies to overheat if fluids aren't replaced. If your body does overheat, a few minutes rest in the shade and a glass of water may not do the trick. Sometimes bed rest is needed. All but one of the 39 heat exhaustion victims treated at hospitals in the Triangle were released the same day. But heat victims aren't always so lucky. One person is still in the intensive care unit at St. Elizabeth's Hospital. In Dallas, some of the heat stroke victims didn't even have to be outside in the sun for the heat to prove fatal. They died inside homes where air conditioners had been turned off to conserve energy. Barbara Bedrick, Channel 6 News.
A large part of the Vietnamese community in Port Arthur gathered at the Vietnamese Resurrection Church today to listen to the story of the fighting in Vietnam and resistance movement. The crowd greeted Colonel Vo Dai Thanh warmly. The former South Vietnamese Army officer told the congregation about his story, about his 11 months in a concentration camp and his escape by boat to Australia, where he now lives. And even the Americans in the audience were enthralled by the emotion in his speech.
Chúng ta tạm thời bỏ nước ra đi để tìm tự do và chúng ta sẽ trở về để giải phóng quê hương của chúng ta.
Colonel Thanh spoke in English to his American audience after addressing the refugees in their native tongue, and he warned of the threat of the spread of communism.
I come here to talk to you about the feelings of my countrymen, about the feelings of the Vietnamese soldiers who have fought for the freedom of our country for years. And in the land of Vietnam, the American blood was shed in the territory of my ancestors for the good cause of freedom. And we wish to thank America. We wish to thank the American people. We wish to thank all of you for having helped us so far. And even today, without your help, without your support, we could not gather in this small room in order to share our feelings.
Thanh says resistance fighters are still battling the communist conquerors in Vietnam, and that is why he is on his world tour, to rally moral support for his cause. And he had bleak warning for those who did not support him.
So maybe you do not share that kind of feeling, but one of those days, if you do not take precaution and the communist doctrine will spread over and you will be in the same case as we are today.
From Port Arthur, David Lowell, Channel 6 News.
Since President Carter signed the draft registration bill authorizing all 19 and 20-year-old men to register, the armed forces have been attempting to improve their image. As a part of that effort, the Beaumont Army Reserve Unit displayed guns used in World Wars I and II. Many of these guns were used by military forces of other countries, including England, Germany, and Russia.
Well, this is an SKS 30 caliber weapon that the Russians and the Chinese used in both Korea and in Vietnam. Compares rather favorably with the weapons we have today. The weapons of today are a little bit lighter and use a smaller round, which is also lighter, and have a little bit higher velocities today.
And some of these old guns are still in use today.
This is a 50 caliber machine gun. It's been around since a little after World War I and still used today. It's still a current weapon. It's very versatile. It's used on tanks, armored personnel carriers, even used in aircraft for many applications. Also, they've been mounting sniper scopes on these things in the last few years and actually using it as a sniper rifle.
The display will be in Parkdale Mall through the weekend. Mario Gomez, Channel 6 News.
There's a lot of people I want to recognize before the pageant's over, and we'll get to that as soon as we see all the beautiful babies.
Do you like to talk, huh? You do?
She wants a balloon. You can have one when you leave.
Our sponsor is Mrs.
Citing financial loss, Fuller and Curtis Ambulance Services recently gave unexpected notice that both services would cease operation September 1st. Orange has no other ambulances, and the new countywide ambulance service is not expected to go into operation until the beginning of 1981. That would leave a Bridge City Volunteer Ambulance and Crawford's operating out of Vidor to service Orange and the rest of Orange County. A 6-member ambulance board has now been named to hopefully get the countywide service into operation before 1981. The group will meet this week to work out details for getting a charter for the nonprofit county service. The service is to be headquartered here at Memorial Hospital, and the board will also be working to get the anticipated 5 ambulances in service as soon as possible. From Orange, Wayne Sparrow, Channel 6 News.
As the Space Shuttle Columbia gets ready for the first of many trips into space, technicians are installing complicated ceramic-coated tiles to protect it from extreme temperatures. Likewise, advanced spacesuits are being developed for the pilots of the new shuttle to provide an Earth-like environment in space, as well as thermal protection from the sun. Here at ILC Industries in Dover, Delaware, about 100 people transform blueprints into complex spacesuits. This is astronaut Bob Crippen as he crawls into his upper body and support system. Crippen and John Young will pilot the first shuttle flight. There have been many advances in spacesuit technology since the Apollo program. The new suits come in 2 pieces instead of 1, so they're easier to put on, and an astronaut can get into the suit without help in a few minutes. With the Apollo gear, it usually took 2 men more than an hour to get 1 astronaut dressed. The final test is near. To perform in space where the stakes are high, the astronauts and their spacesuits, according to the National Aeronautics and Space Administration, will be ready to meet that challenge. And they say the shuttle, too, will also be ready.
As it stands now, after September 1st, there will only be 1 ambulance, the Bridge City Volunteers, operating out of Orange County. Because of heavy financial loss, both Fuller and Curtis Ambulance Services of Orange will halt their operations beginning in September. The new countywide ambulance service is not expected to begin until January. So what now?
It's probably wrong to ask them to lose money, but I think, on the other hand, that we only have a certain amount of money to operate with, and we needn't foul up our whole long-range planning for 1 month. I think if they can work with us, that we can alleviate a problem for them that is draining money from their, their businesses, and if they'll help us out for about a month, we'll get in there, and we'll help them out over a longer period than a month.
The countywide plan is to expand the emergency room at Orange Memorial Hospital and base 3 ambulances here, 1 in Bridge City and 1 in Vidor. Ambulance personnel and dispatching will be headquartered at the hospital. Bids on hospital expansion will not be opened until Thursday, and the ambulances have not yet been purchased. That makes a more severe shortage of ambulances in future months a strong possibility.
In the meantime, we should and will probably talk to the ambulance operators and ask them if, in the event that we're not ready to start by September 1, would you consider staying on until we can start?
A meeting of the ambulance board has been set for Wednesday to see what kind of offer might be made to the local ambulance operators to keep them in business. But both Everett Fuller and James Curtis told us today, despite offers they might receive, they will both cease operation September 1st. From Orange, Wayne Sparrow, Channel 6 News.
The process of donating blood is really quite simple. Each prospective donor is carefully screened for his own protection as well as that of the prospective donee. A hemoglobin test is run to make sure the donor has enough iron in his blood. Then the blood pressure is checked. If the pressure is above a certain level, the loss of a pint of blood might cause an abrupt and dangerous drop in pressure. Blood pressure is rarely too low for a donation, but it does happen occasionally, especially with long-distance runners. The donation of a pint of blood is, of course, a humanitarian gesture, but more selfish motives also exist. By giving a pint to replace a pint used by a friend or family member, the donor saves $15 off the $50 cost of a unit of blood. Or the donor can join the Family Blood Assurance Plan, where for a pint of blood a year he'll cover his immediate family's needs, saving the full $50 on every pint of blood required. A donor can give blood as often as every 2 weeks, helping not only himself and his family, but also the victims of accidents like this, whose blood requirements might one day exceed the available supply. Albert Zipp, Channel 6 News.
Here at Lamar University, the campus is almost deserted except for those few that have decided to take summer school courses. When the students return in the fall, however, they'll be taking ROTC courses, a good majority of them probably because they heard that if you do take ROTC courses, you're exempt from the draft.
Apparently, that's enough to rekindle interest in the ROTC programs. Texas A&M University is well known for its military corps of cadets. While the numbers there have never really been down, officials at the university report a significant increase in the number of freshmen who have joined the corps this year. Lamar has an Army and Air Force program, but the Air Force ROTC will terminate next year. Apparently, the number of students enrolled were below the required figure. Officials at Lamar hope the renewed interest at A&M will show itself in the Army program here.
As long as they are enrolled in a college program, in Air Force ROTC that is, they would be entitled to finish out their school year.
So they wouldn't be called to the draft until they did finish?
No, they would not be considered for induction until they have finished. But normally if they're in the Air Force ROTC program and they successfully complete the program, they will receive a commission simultaneously with their degree.
There are two types of ROTC programs in college. The first is for those who do not want a military career. The other is for the future professional soldier. Both will keep you ineligible for the draft.
And as soon as they drop out of those courses, then they are back with the non-college students or the non-ROTC participating students.
One point to remember, taking the courses keeps you from being drafted. It does not keep you from registering for the draft. Bruce Cates, Channel 6 News.
Remember these people? You may never have seen them before, but they've been working on updating the local population count since the 1st of April. The census won't be finished for another month or so, but local review figures are due out in the next week to 10 days. Those numbers are given to area officials to compare with figures they already have to check for discrepancies. Then next month, after all the demographic information is compiled, those preliminary figures will probably become the final head count for the nation. But for now, Beaumont District Director B. Irving says the crews are trying to update their numbers.
They're contacting all vacant households that were listed as vacant on April 1st, and certain other non-response households. They are also contacting people that we find difficult to find to be sure that they are counted.
Now, a lot of the people may not have been counted the first time around, and some people, is it possible that they could be counted twice now?
It is possible that at this point we may have counted some people twice. This is why we're making this contact to refine our figures. There's not a lot of the people we hope that haven't been counted. We hope that the majority of them have.
Irving says the count 10 years ago was off by about 2.5%. So the local office is trying to make this count complete and eliminate the homes counted twice. The biggest problem facing the double check is the lack of workers in Liberty and Chambers counties. Irving says unemployment is so low in those counties it's hard to find workers. We'll let you know when the new figures are available and explain what they mean to you. David Lowell, Channel 6 News.
The rationing won't affect water used inside the home. What it means is the Greenwells live here at 4165. If they want to wash their car or water their yard, they can do it today, the 15th of the month.
Those living in homes with even numbers are asked to use water outside only on even-numbered days. So far, Pinehurst residents haven't had a big problem with water, but consumption is up.
Our normal usage is approximately 400,000 gallons, and right now we're using about 650,000 gallons due to the heat and dry weather we're having.
This storage tower holds some 350,000 gallons of water, but by the sweat line, you can see it's almost empty. It only has 175,000 gallons of water in it now, but at midnight tonight, the city's water will be cut off until around 7 a.m. to try to fill it up. The city is asking residents to cooperate in the rationing, and those who don't could get their water cut off. From Pinehurst, Wayne Sparrow, Channel 6 News.
It's called the Precious Metals Ordinance. It is being sponsored by City Councilman Tom Combs. If passed, the ordinance would require all businesses that buy precious metals to keep records of every transaction.
The response has been very good, and I understand the City Attorney's Office has gotten response from several shop owners in support, and also with some very constructive criticism that we could implement into the ordinance to make it work better.
We talked with several businesses that buy these items and asked if it would affect the way they do business. Most said it wouldn't and are in support of the Precious Metals Ordinance.
The people that don't want to give identification are possibly the people that are stealing the goods and they leave the store, which is basically what I'm trying to accomplish anyhow. So I don't see any problem at all. It's not going to hurt my business at all, because the people that are legitimate sellers will always come to the store.
I don't find that it'll affect my business any. I really don't buy that much of it, but I do think it's a good idea to have this ordinance.
The ordinance has no provisions that we aren't following anyway. We have always required identification from anybody we're buying from. The only difference between what the ordinance will do and what we've done already is that we're going to have to buy a license, which is no hardship.
I feel like it's something that's worthwhile, and I feel like it's something the city needs, and I think it will, make a difference if put in conjunction with an overall comprehensive plan of cracking down on residential burglaries.
The ordinance was discussed in the workshop session of council, and it may appear on the agenda for consideration in a few weeks. Jim Oliver in Beaumont, Channel 6 News.
Rollover Pass has been an endangered species for about a year now. The fishing pass has not had any major repairs in its 25-year history, and it shows. Fishermen have lined the fishing bridges here for the past quarter century, pulling in their catches from the salty water. The pass was created to reintroduce saltwater fish and vegetation into East Galveston Bay, after large amounts of fresh water coming from the mainland side of the bay threatened the marine life. This afternoon, H.J. LeBlanc of the State Committee to Save Rollover Pass came to tell the Port Arthur Chamber of Commerce about the plight of the fishing pass.
The fishing is terrific, and it is as good today as the day when it was opened. And the reason for opening up is to have migration of marine life from the Gulf to go into the waters of the bay, and vice versa, because the bay is the nursery ground for shrimps and all the marine life, and maybe the shrimp that might be able to get at the table at some time or other pass through Rollover Pass.
LeBlanc says he's not after money from the businessmen, only their support in the effort to save the pass. He says if the community gets behind his efforts and supports the preservation of Rollover Pass, the legislators in Austin will have to respond. And the pass could be eligible for Galveston County, state, and federal funds to get the money it needs to stay open. From Port Arthur, David Lowell, Channel 6 News.
Firefighting is a strenuous, demanding job, one that requires strength, stamina, and endurance. Before the introduction of the pilot physical fitness program, Beaumont firefighters were encouraged to stay in shape on a volunteer basis. According to Deputy Chief Fred Carter, some firefighters did and some did not.
Well, it's mostly been on a volunteer basis. The firemen in most of the station have weights and different exercises that they go through on their own, and we have some men that are in good shape, but there are some that do need it to improve themselves.
The exercises included in the pilot program were designed specifically for firefighters by the President's Council on Physical Fitness and are expected to promote increased strength and stamina and to reduce the incidence of injuries.
What is the purpose of this pilot program?
Well, to get the men in better condition to physically handle themselves better in a fire. Our primary responsibility is saving lives and property, and the fireman needs to be in good physical condition to do this. And I feel like that this program is necessary to get the ones that's not in good shape in better shape so that they can perform their duties better.
At the conclusion of the pilot program, the results will be forwarded to Fire Chief C.A. Shelton. If the program appears to have been successful, all of Beaumont's firefighters will be required to participate in it. Albert Zipp, Channel 6 News.
A man going door to door in Beaumont collecting money for IHOP, or I Help Old People, claims to be representing Lamar University. This comes as a complete surprise to Lamar officials.
My office normally clears solicitation or is in charge of solicitations for the university. We didn't know anything about it. I checked with our student affairs people, Jackie Plessette specifically, who normally works with organizations. She wasn't aware of it. I asked our president, Dr. Kimball, if he knew anything about a solicitation in the name of the university and IHOP, and he said he did not.
The man is described as a young black male in his mid-20s. He carries a pen and paper with the word IHOP printed on it. If this man comes to your door, you can report him to the police. Lamar officials also have that option should the man continue his collections.
Yes, we certainly can have the law enforcement agencies talk to the gentleman about misrepresentation and soliciting under false colors, and I believe there are a number of laws that would prohibit that, Bruce.
So far, he has been reported only in the west end of town, but officials say he could turn up anywhere. Bruce Cates, Channel 6 News.
Two different gold medallions honoring singer Marian Anderson and painter Grant Wood went on sale across the country, as well as here at home in Beaumont. The medallion honoring Anderson is made up of a ½ ounce of gold, while the medal for Grant Wood weighs 1 full ounce. These are the first of 10 medallions to be offered over the next 5 years, and the first U.S. gold pieces to be issued in decades. This is an effort to allow the small investor to join the gold rush. The U.S. medallions are expected to compete in the worldwide gold market and are being sold by mail order. Official order forms can be picked up at any local post office. Jim Gordon, a postal official here in Beaumont, explains what steps are involved in placing an order.
The first thing a person needs to do is come in the post office and pick up one of our brochures. Now, our brochure has a free toll-free number that the person needs to call. When they call this number, they'll be given the current price of the medallion. Then they need to go to the bank and pick up a cashier's check or a certified check and come to the post office, or they can come and get one of our postal money orders.
Delivery of the medallions is expected to take about 8 to 12 weeks, and they will be sent by first-class registered mail. And remember, supplies are limited. Terry Elliott, Channel 6 News.
Four reservists from the Golden Triangle spent 2 weeks in Coronado, California, where they gained experience in amphibious assaults. The training is yearly and keeps the Marine Reserves prepared for any disasters or emergencies that might arise.
We're talking about men who spend most of the year working at their regular jobs. For 2 weeks, they do something extremely different.
That's correct. Like myself, I'm an engineer, supervisor at Texaco. Most of the people around here work for the different oil and chemical industry and other facets of civilian life like other people would. And for 2 weeks out of every summer, we go for summer camp, and then 1 weekend per month we're on active duty here at the Reserve Center.
Is this something that's looked forward to, the summer camp?
Oh, yes, quite definitely. It's a good break from the normal routine of work, and also to get away from the family a bit. It's good for both the man and their family. It makes you appreciate more what you got at home.
Bruce Cates, Channel 6 News. The Jefferson County Grand Jury handed down this indictment shortly after 2 o'clock this afternoon, charging 3 counts of felony theft against Port Arthur Independent School District Superintendent Dr. Richard Ledestro.
The grand jury has not completed its investigation. It will continue. We have a meeting set up for next Tuesday, and witnesses will be subpoenaed for this particular meeting. The grand jury met yesterday and today, 2 days this week, just taking up, of course, the investigation of the Port Arthur Independent School District.
The initial investigation began in May after an outside audit was conducted. At issue were expenses reported by school trustees and the superintendent for trips to meetings and conventions around the country, and in the case of Ledestro, to Costa Rica. The indictment charges Ledestro appropriated money belonging to the school district of a value over $200 and under $10,000. That classifies it as a third-degree felony, which, if proven in court, carries with it a penalty of 2 to 10 years in prison. Ledestro testified for about 40 minutes before the grand jury this morning, before the indictment was handed down. McGrath told reporters the investigation into the funds is not complete, and other indictments are a possibility. Ledestro will be arraigned in criminal district court 10 days from today. The grand jury is expected to announce more charges in 2 to 3 weeks. Also, an emergency meeting of the Port Arthur Independent School District will be held tonight at 7 o'clock. The only reason being given is personnel matters. From the Jefferson County Courthouse, Bruce Cates, Channel 6 News.
A fire July 6 destroyed the stables at the Brown Ranch. Dispatcher Bertha Alex worked the fire. Fireman told the city council she didn't do it properly. The matter was to be settled by the chief of police and fire chief. City council minutes show her supervisor found no reason to fire Mrs. Alex, but she was fired after firemen flatly refused to work with her in the future. Mrs. Alex, what were the reasons given in your termination notice?
Okay, the reasons are given on the 7th, 10th of 80 because the fire department stated to the council in a council meeting on the 7th, 9th of 80 that they would not work with me because I did not. They said that I did not push the alarm tone to notify the firemen of the fire.
But I was out in the yard working when the alarm came in. My wife came out and told me that the fire alarm was going off, and I came in and she was talking on the Plextron, but whether the buzzer went off, I don't know.
I had caused problems.
Has it been brought to your attention that they've been having problems with her?
No, it hadn't.
The termination notice also said an ambulance was not dispatched quick enough. Channel 6 was not allowed to verify times on the city log, but Pinehurst officials at the scene indicate that when an ambulance was requested, the dispatcher already had one en route. At the scene, we photographed a backup ambulance crew that had been called. Officials also told us the dispatcher is not required to call a backup ambulance. The mayor was in the dispatch office during the fire, and we asked him about the communications.
Telephones were ringing off the wall, dispatcher grabbing the phones and trying to talk to the fire trucks and police and everything all at the same time.
Was she having trouble reaching the fire trucks?
Yes, she had trouble reaching fire trucks, and I understand fire trucks had trouble reaching her.
So there's a communication problem with the equipment then?
Oh, yeah, bound to be.
Since Alex was fired, radios have been removed from at least 2 fire units and taken to Strom Electronics in Beaumont.
They're fairly old radios, vintage about 1961, I believe, is where the oldest one is.
What about the main dispatch system?
The main base station has got some problems in it where it needs some extensive repair on it, and it's really not what I would call reliable.
While no Pinehurst fire officials were available for comment, the issue is expected to go before the American Civil Liberties Union. From Pinehurst, Wayne Sparrow, Channel 6 News.
The newly elected president of the Beaumont Classroom Teachers Association claims the Beaumont Independent School District Board has refused to make reasonable commitments to the teachers for the coming year. Larry Josh also called the first pay raise offered by the board last year irresponsible because instead of the $1,500 the teachers asked for, they got $500. Josh feels the board's actions are directed at the professional and economic security of the teachers.
We were asking basically that they establish our working conditions, our pay, association rights, and so on, and then sign it and agree to live by it for 1 year. Have they not done that? No.
The Teachers Association says they will do anything within reason to prove to the school board that they mean business. When a teacher walkout was mentioned, the reply was, maybe not this year.
I might remind you that a work stoppage is illegal by public employees, and that we are not anticipating that at this point in time, but we are anticipating some other actions.
But if you deem a walkout necessary, then it could happen.
At some point in time, possibly, yes.
A teacher walkout or work stoppage has been ruled out for the coming school year, but the membership still contends they will do anything possible in order to reach an agreement. Jim Oliver in Beaumont, Channel 6 News.
Inadequate working conditions and low salaries were the primary problems that Dr. Mabel Wandelt, director of the University of Texas Nursing Research Center, found in her study concerning the acute shortage of nurses in Texas. Wandelt's report was prepared for the Senate Select Committee on Delivery of Human Services, and it estimates that 6,000 licensed Texas nurses would go back to work if the working conditions were right. Diane K. Jones, a nurse recruiter for Humana Corporation and herself a registered nurse, agrees that there is a shortage of nurses and explains some of the nurses' needs.
I see this shortage continuing. Personally, I feel that we have to offer greater educational opportunities for the nurses. Salaries do have to come up somewhat more to be comparable for what the profession has to offer. But I think from a personal aspect, the nurse is needing that recognition, she's needing that sense of achievement.
To help meet some of these needs and get new nurses on their feet and experienced nurses back in the field, Brent Mesh, Director of Professional Relations at Beaumont Medical Surgical Hospital, says new programs are helping.
Here at this hospital, Beaumont Medical, and there's been programs developed to help the nurse, or in the process right now developing a residency type program for the nurse to continue education, her first year out of school, for instance, which will enable her to better acquaint herself and give her more clinical experience. Some of them are very frightened to come right into the field of medicine and work and want a little more assurance.
And while Mesh agrees that these programs are helpful, he also adds that the problems facing nurses throughout the state are not short-range problems, but problems that will take a lot of long-range planning to solve. Terry Elliott, Channel 6 News.
This is a Convair 440 aircraft. Air Texana Airlines plans to use this plane on its Beaumont to New Orleans flights, and it's looking like that will begin very soon. Last Monday, Texana officials proposed a starting date of this Friday, but the communication system for the airline still needs to be completed at the airport before any of these planes can be launched. Channel 6 News learned late today that Texana officials expect ground systems to be ready next week. Channel 6 News also learned that the price of a ticket to New Orleans will probably be a little more than the $17.50 originally planned. A $69 one-way charge is expected during the day, while a night ticket should cost you about $39. A few communication bugs still need to be worked out by the airline. According to Texana, Texas International Airlines will do the ticketing on the ground, but an agent for Texas International at the Jefferson County Airport told us nothing definite has been settled. It is believed that the airline is keeping a low profile on any starting date after an earlier date last March was unable to be met. But now Texana officials are confident a starting date will come very soon. Bruce Cates, Channel 6 News.
As a judge, what can the people of Jefferson County expect to see in you?
Well, a working court. I would like to continue in the tradition of the late Judge Combs, keeping the docket moving, keeping the caseload down, and I would also like to help alleviate the docket in the domestic relations court. I have not discussed this with Judge Ferris yet, but should he be in favor of this in my spare time, when we don't have a case to be tried, I would like to help pick up the slack there.
This parking lot is not a nursery school, and the cars don't make good babysitters. Not for children, not for pets. The accident in Fort Worth has many people in the area concerned about the ways people keep their children occupied while they run personal errands. Fred Gennari of the Department of Human Resources says the danger to children is obvious, but to younger children in particular.
Younger children, especially very small children, 2 years old or maybe younger, they really can't do much for themselves. If they're left with windows rolled up in the car or a situation like that, chances are they'll just suffer the consequences. They won't be able to help themselves. We have had several reports of this happening this summer. Luckily, as far as I'm aware of at this time, there's been no serious consequences, but it's just lucky, really.
And if young children are unable to care for themselves, consider the plight of people's pets. Many folks just leave their pets in the car while they're out. And Humane Council Manager Denise Bennett says one pet barely survived such a situation.
Recently, I believe at the Arts Festival here in Beaumont, there was a puppy found locked in a car with the windows up. He looked to be at the point of collapsing. There was security personnel on the premises. They retrieved the animal out of the car. We brought it to our shelter. He was dehydrated. He was on the verge of suffering probably irreparable brain damage. Now, they can only stand temperatures, body temperatures of 107 to 108 degrees for a few minutes before suffering irreparable brain damage.
One set of figures says on an 85-degree day, the temperature inside the car with windows slightly open will reach 102 degrees in just 10 minutes. In only 30 minutes, the temperature will hit 120. The child who died in Fort Worth was left in the car for 3 hours. The bottom line is, don't leave any living thing in your car for more than a couple of minutes. You may save a life. David Lowell, Channel 6 News. The emergency room at Baptist Hospital sees all kinds of poisoning victims regularly. The poison treatment facilities are among the best in the area, so the hospital gets its fair share of snake bite victims. This morning, a man climbing a tree in the piney woods was bitten by a rattlesnake. A little more than an hour later, he was undergoing treatment at Baptist. And the treatment for bites depends greatly on the amount of time passing between the accident and the treatment. Dr. Frank Rivers.
For anyone who's been bitten by a rattlesnake, it's wise to try to get to an emergency room within an hour after the bite, if at all possible. That is really the time limit for the use of antivenin or for its use with any efficacy or any expectation of success.
Dr. Rivers says there are dangers of using antivenom also. Patients who have shown allergic tendencies to antivenoms or old tetanus vaccines may have bad reactions. One Silsbee woman died recently from a reaction to an antivenom shot. So since snakes are more active during the summer months, it might be a good idea to know where you're stepping before you put your foot down. And if you can definitely identify the snake that bit someone, you could save their life, since antivenom is only given for rattlesnake bites. David Lowell, Channel 6 News.
There'll be a public hearing beginning at 7 o'clock here at the Orange Public Library. The reason? There could be almost $440,000 available to the city of Orange. In the past, the federal revenue sharing money has been used to buy police cars, the city computer system, library books, and various other items. It's not certain that Congress will okay the funds, but city officials are concerned about something else.
Well, this particular hearing is designed to allow the citizens to have input into the budget process before the decisions are already made, and our main problem is just getting people to come out. I think last year we had one person, and the year before that, one, and in some years we've had none at all.
Are you going to attend the public hearing?
I don't think so.
Why not?
I'm just not. I don't know why.
Okay.
I'll try.
No, I'm not.
Why not?
We've got other plans for tonight.
If I go, I'd probably disagree with everybody because I think the money should go back to the federal government to pay on the national debt.
Officials add the money, if obtained, can be used for just about any type of city need or improvement. From Orange, Wayne Sparrow, Channel 6 News.
About the Republican ticket, how do you think you'll vote this fall?
Republican.
Did the choice of George Bush by Ronald Reagan change your mind at all about voting for him?
No. Really, I'd rather Ford.
You would have preferred Ford over Bush?
Yeah, sure would.
But
he's a smart man. I mean, he'd know how to run this America.
How do you plan to vote this fall?
Probably for Reagan.
Did the choice of George Bush have any effect on your...
It did, yeah.
Would you have voted for him had he chosen President Ford as the running mate?
Yeah.
Do you think that the choice of George Bush by Ronald Reagan will have an effect on the way you decide to vote?
Possibly.
You like George Bush, or would you maybe have preferred Ronald Reagan had he chosen Gerald Ford or one of the others?
Not Gerald Ford.
You don't like Gerald Ford?
Well, I think Gerald Ford would have been a little too much to go with Reagan after he'd been president for a while.
Reagan and Bush ticket looks pretty good right now.
Does George Bush have anything maybe swing you that way?
Well, he's conservative, just like Reagan is, and I'm looking for a conservative in the White House.
What do you think of George Bush as Ronald Reagan as running mate? Do you think that'll help your decision?
I think it will. I would rather have seen Ford, but I think that gave Reagan probably more competition than anybody else in the primaries, and I think it'll help him. And so far, that's about the best thing they got going, I believe.
4 years ago, a Midland man was seriously injured when his car was struck by a pickup truck at a blind intersection not unlike this one. The man never saw the car coming because his vision was obscured by brush and trees. In an unprecedented decision rendered yesterday, the Texas Supreme Court ruled that it is each city's responsibility to keep street intersections free of visual and physical obstructions, and that cities will be held liable for damages if they receive notice of a blind intersection and then fail to clear away whatever obstructs the view. In this case, for example, the city of Midland was held liable for over $900,000 in damages to the man who suffered irreparable brain damage as a result of an accident. In Beaumont, there's a city ordinance which makes it each individual property owner's responsibility to maintain good visibility along city streets and at intersections. City officials have made it clear to us that that ordinance will continue to be enforced until and unless an appeal of yesterday's Supreme Court decision makes a change in the city ordinance necessary. Albert Zipp, Channel 6 News.
This is the library at Lamar University, and students here say that they've got a pretty quick elevator. It takes you up and down pretty fast, but obviously not fast enough for everybody. For some, this is the only way down. It's called rappelling. An incoming freshman at Lamar had an opportunity to see it performed this morning by members of the U.S. Army. The purpose? To encourage students to sign up for ROTC courses in the fall, and more importantly, to let them know they will not only learn how to rappel in the classroom, but will actually do it themselves in the field.
What we really want to show today is how safe the equipment is and how much confidence we have in the equipment. It is very, very safe.
I've noticed that in a lot of the ways that the Army teaches methods, rather than just show them in the classroom, that they take them out and actually show them. You find this is more effective in getting people to learn?
Oh yeah, it's not only more effective, but the students themselves enjoy it. We do in our courses teach hands-on training. We walk them through it. And, you know, obviously as rappelling is, you go through all the techniques of rappelling, and we found it's very, very interesting.
Army officials tell us the reason they put on these demonstrations is to let the students know what's going on before they actually do it. In fact, that's what they intend to do from now on, is to let the students do it themselves. The best way to learn is to actually go through the motions. I would, but I've got things to do. Bruce Cates, Channel 6 News.
Faced with the possibility of no ambulance service, the Orange County Ambulance Board had a long meeting this afternoon at Memorial Hospital. When asked if the board could get the ambulances rolling by September 1st, Board Chairman Bob Walker replied,
You're on camera.
Walker was speechless and others laughed because, unlike similar sessions, the board met, decided what was necessary, and openly said what they would do.
Are you rolling? This board feels that we can have an ambulance service in operation by September the 1st.
4 ambulances like this one shown today will be purchased.
Got us a director coordinator for the ambulance service.
Terry Fontenot, a registered nurse with all of his training in emergency care, will head the service.
Committee meetings are established, and we'll have our next board meeting a week from tomorrow, which is Friday the 25th, to get the reports from the committees.
Those committees are to return with details like where the units in Bridge City and Vida will be located, billing procedures, what an ambulance trip will cost, and the particulars of dispatching and stationing 3 ambulances here at Memorial Hospital. The ambulance system will be the first of its kind in the Golden Triangle area, and moving the startup from January 1981 did make it an afternoon for smiles and laughter. From Orange, Wayne Sparrow, Channel 6 News.
When the heat wave first began more than a month ago, it was so localized that Gulf States Utilities could call on other elements in its vast system for additional power. But now, with record temperatures reported every day from Texas through Louisiana, Gulf States no longer enjoys that luxury. Every power station in the system is being taxed to its very limits, and unless its customers exercise a little restraint in their use of air conditioners and electrical appliances, Gulf States Utilities will face the very real threat of a power failure.
With the very large and growing use of electricity during this heat wave, the reserve margin is not sufficient to provide for unexpected failures of equipment, and the likelihood of brownouts or blackouts is increased.
All right, what are some of the ways that your customers can cut back on their consumption between 3 and 7 p.m.?
The very large appliances that use a lot of electricity are air conditioning units, where the thermostat can be set as high as comfortable, ovens, ranges, avoid cooking between the hours of 3 p.m. and 7 p.m., the use of clothes dryers during these periods of the day.
So the bottom line for Gulf States Utilities customers in Southeast Texas is this: if we don't voluntarily curtail our power usage between the peak period hours of 3 and 7 p.m., we increase the risk of a failure in the power supply during this prolonged heat wave. Albert Zip, Channel 6 News.